Historic Sumner County home left boarded up with overgrown grass despite private money given to the county for upkeep. Fox 17 News tracking where those funds went.
Drugs, loitering, and hundreds of calls to police. Why this North Nashville market, declared a nuisance, can now reopen, and the frustration from neighbors. Fox 17 News at 9 starts now.
Middle Tennessee's only primetime news. This is Fox 17 News at 9, your Code Red station.
We're beginning with breaking news out of Louisville, Kentucky. That's where a jury just convicted a former police officer of using excessive force on Breonna Taylor, who was killed during a botched raid. The death of the 26-year-old black woman in March of 2020, you'll remember, along with the May 2020 police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, sparked racial injustice protests across the country. Tonight's verdict is the first conviction of a Louisville police officer who was involved in that deadly raid.
I am glad to hear that they are finally doing the right thing.
Continuing coverage tonight on the push to restore this Revolutionary War era home in Sumner County. After 7 long years of back and forth, the people who want to see this house preserved have some new hope tonight. Sumner County Mayor John Isbell says he is now working to make those changes, the refurbishing of that home, a reality. Fox 17 News' Karen Aguilar has more now about the pot of money that can help this cause.
We looked at the will of William Brown, leaving $500,000 to Sumner County for a public park and to maintain this home. It has not been done, but finally, after 2 years in public office, the current mayor has decided to do something about it.
This historical home from the late 1700s sits on Hunter's Lane in Sumner County with boarded windows and is unkept, according to County Commissioner Jeremy Mansfield.
We don't know if it's termites, rotten, falling down, falling in. And I know under the brick veneer of the home, there is, the original large wood beams and the mortar, just beautiful work that you could see. But there's a lot of restoration that needs to happen.
Sumner County Mayor John Isbell says county workers removed some trees and shrubbery and cleaned it for maintenance, but the community says that's not enough.
I think the people are a little bit let down.
Mansfield tells me the $500,000 William Brown left in his will to the county to maintain his home was going to be used for this park, but it ignored using the money to restore his home.
The priority is the home as the centerpiece.
Mayor Isbell tells Fox 17 News he has reached out for guidance on restoring the home. According to this letter from the attorney for the Brown family, the previous county mayor and director of schools were responsible for carrying out Brown's wishes. That didn't happen. Instead, he tells me the $500,000 and $8 million for school technology were mingled into one account. Mayor Isbell now tells me the trust accountant is working on transferring the names over to him and the current director of schools, Scott Langford, to honor Brown's wishes at last.
A little disturbing that here we are over 2 years later and realizing that their names weren't actually on the financial accounts to be able to even manage these accounts.
Mansfield tells me once the money is handed over to the county commission, they can apply for a historical preservation grant to restore the home and establish the park. We will keep you updated. Reporting live in studio, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Thanks, Karen. Moving to politics, early voting is now over in Tennessee. Election leaders in Davidson County say more than 209,000 people cast a ballot early so far in Davidson. That's nearly half of all registered voters in the county. Let's take a look now at the top early voting sites in Nashville. The Hermitage Library saw more than 23,000 people. Edmondson Pike Library, more than 22,000. And the Bellevue and Green Hills Libraries each had more than 20,000 voters.
Fox 17 News is committed to bringing you in-depth analysis of all the key issues leading up to Election Day, which is Tuesday. Folks, we're almost there. As soon as the polls close on Tuesday night, Fox 17 News will be here to bring you the latest results on key races, both on air and online at fox17.com. Now, you can also get in-depth analysis, including the path to victory for each of the presidential candidates on the Fox Nashville YouTube channel. And while you're there, please subscribe. It is your money, and state leaders are asking the feds for a bigger piece of the pie this year to help address the damage done by Hurricanes Helene and Milton over in East Tennessee. The specific ask in this case is for farmers and the ag industry. Washed out interstates and destroyed homes got the bulk of the headlines in the weeks right after the storms. But our partners at OpenTheBooks.com discovered that farms in East Tennessee were hit hard too, and that's what prompted House Speaker Cameron Sexton to ask for this extra help.
They said that Hurricane Helene could not have made landfall at a worse time for the agricultural industry, that farmers across the states had already begun their full harvest and that no commodity was spared.
House Speaker Cam Sexton and his counterparts in 5 other states are asking members of Congress for block grants to help our farmers, as well as some other money to help communities rebuild after those devastating floods. Now, speaking of flooding, we didn't have any with the rains yesterday because it's been like almost a month, and we had a nice night for football, too.
We did, absolutely. Better than last night, I'll say.
Yes, it was quite nice out there, and it's going to be chilly as we get into the overnight hours. In fact, for anyone that may still be out watching football this evening, or for folks downtown here on Broadway, temperatures are cooling off quite a bit here. I think we'll drop back into the upper 40s by tomorrow morning. Very lively on Broadway, as always, on a Friday night, and currently we are sitting in those 50s. So we'll drop overnight into the low 50s, if not the upper 40s, looking likely for us here in Nashville with a mainly clear sky. The front is well to our east, and that continues to usher in this cooler weather. It has dried us out as well. Clouds have gone with it, so we are looking forward to another nice afternoon ahead for Saturday. 48-hour temperature for the overnight in Nashville. A little cooler north here. In fact, near the Tennessee-Kentucky border, Clarksville, Hopkinsville, low 40s expected, so quite chilly. Murfreesboro will be in the upper 40s, as well as Cookeville, and slightly warmer for McMinnville, Tullahoma, and Lewisburg, sitting in those low 50s. Coming up, we will talk more about what we can expect for the weekend ahead and looking at Election Day. Likely going to be our next chance for showers and perhaps some thunderstorms. We will talk more about that coming up in your Fox 17 Code Red forecast.
And also this weekend, it's going to feel like we've got an extra hour of sleep. We wind those clocks back. So again, you can feel like you're sleeping in. The trade-off here, though, earlier sunsets in the evening. Now, we always want to know what you think. Should Congress, they're asked this every year, get rid of daylight saving time? More than 900 of you weighing in. 83% of you said yes, get rid of it. 17% said no. The poll is live right now. To cast your vote, you can scan the QR code on your screen or head to our X page at Fox Nashville. We're going to show you those updated results later on in our newscast.
Just ahead in the broadcast, no instant results. Just how long you can expect to wait for vote totals on election night.
And not the same odds, how your ethnicity can impact surviving cancer.
In election news, early voting across our state ended yesterday. Turnout was strong, not quite as strong as it was in the last presidential election back in 2020. Joining us now with some hard numbers from the early voting for Davidson County is the county's election administrator, Jeff Roberts. Jeff, good to see you. I know it's been a busy time for you and your folks. Give us the vital stats from Nashville now that early voting is officially all over.
So as far as in-person early voting at our 13 locations, we hit almost 210,000 voters over the 14-day period.
Now, everything I was seeing up to that point indicated it was roughly 40%, maybe a little under. Is that consistent with what the numbers revealed?
Right. I think looking at the numbers that the state puts out to everyone, keep in mind those include absentee ballots also. And when you look at 2020, because of COVID, we had a very large number of absentee ballots in that mix.
Sure. Now, when the polls closed on Tuesday night, Election Day, explain the numbers that your office is able to release right away. What are we going to know?
So the first numbers we will release will be the early and absentee numbers. And we will release those just as soon as we can determine that the last voter has cast their vote. So whoever might have been in line at 7 p.m., that individual will be allowed to vote, and then we will release those early voting and absentee numbers.
Sure, and I understand why you do that, so folks don't think, hey, you know, these are the numbers, this is what it's going to be, why should I bother? We want them all to vote.
Correct.
Now, based on what you've seen in terms of early voting, what percentage of turnout are you predicting for this election when all is said and done?
You know, we still think we will be in that 65, 70% range just because of the interest in this election. It's a very important election for the country, and we think Tennesseans, especially those here in Davidson County, will turn out.
Sure, obviously we've got a U.S. Senate race, and we've got a couple congressional races that play as well. We've got that big referendum on transit here in Nashville. How quickly do you expect all the returns to be tallied and everything done on election night? And that is to say, when do you think we're going to know the will of the people? About what time?
Well, in Davidson County, we're hoping to have our finals numbers wrapped up, you know, maybe 11 o'clock, 10:30, something like that. Of course, we would not be disappointed if we could put those numbers out earlier, but we will be working as hard as we can to turn that around for the public just as quickly as possible.
And just for the record, obviously Tuesday is before us, but I don't recall any real problems in early voting. Everything seemed to have gone fairly smoothly.
Everything went fairly smoothly. We would ask that voters remember to bring that photo ID. That's all you need to vote on Election Day.
That's perfect. I'm looking forward to Tuesday. Nashville Election Administrator Jeff Roberts, thanks so much for taking the time for us.
Thank you, Scott.
Moving now to health news. The disparities are shocking. For most types of cancer, people of color have the highest death rate among any racial group in the United States. That's according to the American Cancer Society. Tonight, we're looking into a new report showing what could be a critical reason why. In the U.S., African Americans and those who are Hispanic are more likely to be diagnosed with an advanced stage of cancer. And at that point, it's more difficult to treat and oftentimes incurable.
We wondered, you know, how much of this was biology and how much was this sort of a modifiable social determinant of health?
That's why researchers with the American Cancer Society analyzed data from nearly 2 million cancer patients who had major cancer between 2013 and 2019. They found that a large reason for racial and ethnic disparities in advanced cancer risk is lack of health insurance coverage.
One can imagine a situation where one does not have health insurance, that one ignores symptoms earlier on, and someone doesn't go on for the routine screening tests.
Researchers say health insurance coverage is key to having access to high-quality health care, which can lead to disease prevention and early detection.
Ensuring that folks all have access to coverage, to care, I think is really important to reduce deaths and suffering from cancer.
The organization says separate data also highlights disparities in breast cancer, with Black women being less likely to get diagnosed with the disease than white women, but 41% more likely to die from it.
So I think step one is finding the cancer earlier on, and step two is ensuring that we have treatment that's equal for folks, you know, regardless of who they are.
I'm Kelly Avellino for Fox 17 News, your Code Red station. And the author of that study says getting health coverage for everyone is crucial here, which could lead to better survival rates for people of color.
All right, let's talk about your weekend weather. We are right here on the doorstep. After really warm weather all week long, there is a hint of something in the air.
Yeah, we've been looking at pretty nice weather, a little cool tonight, but we're right back up to about 80 as we head through the weekend.
I thought this was like maybe, all right, fall's coming.
I know. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of sad in my opinion.
I feel like we're just going to drop to like the 50s and there's really not going to be that autumn stretch. Hopefully
I want my 4 seasons.
Yes, that's right. I'm sitting here wearing a fall-winter sweater and I'm hot right now. So
that's that time of year.
Yeah, we're going to be looking warm all the way through the weekend. And we get into next week, the big story is going to be Election Day, actually. The Election Day forecast does call for our next chance for rain. So cool night ahead, as I mentioned, we're in those 40s. But we go into the weekend, sunshine and highs in the mid-70s up to 80 degrees once again. It will be Election Day that we're looking at that next chance for rain. Now, for perspective, our temperatures on average during the month of November, in the mid-60s and slide to the mid-50s by the end of the month. But we are well above this. Again, highs tomorrow should be around 75. So we are a good 10 degrees above average already. And then by Sunday, we'll be 15 degrees above average for those afternoon highs. We break down your weekend, Saturday and Sunday, mid-60s here through the afternoon to low to mid-70s later in the day. Great for college football. And then tomorrow, or I should say Sunday, great for the Titans game with temperatures topping off in the upper 70s, close to 80 degrees. So our next rain chance will be moving in on Election Day, and that'll be along a cold front that'll push through. A pretty active pattern shaping up for the central part of the country. That'll be part of the same system here that eventually brings us rain for part of Election Day. And I would say the better chance of showers will be after lunchtime and into really the second half of the day. That's timing right now, and it could easily change between now and Tuesday. Temperatures, though, look to be well above average. Now, with highs in the 80s expected for Election Day, it is possible that we are looking at some thunderstorm activity as well. Severe weather doesn't appear to be a major concern for us in Middle Tennessee. The bigger threats for severe weather right now look to be to our west and more into the Central Plains. But it is something we're going to need to keep an eye on, I think, as we get closer to Tuesday. So we take you through Saturday night, again, mainly clear conditions all the way through Sunday. Sunday evening into Monday, we stay dry, but you notice that the storm system is already taking shape out in the Central Plains, and we'll be producing some strong thunderstorms out in portions of Oklahoma to Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri. And then as we get more into Tuesday here, this is 4 a.m., 5 a.m. This will be lining up near the Mississippi River and will eventually move into Middle Tennessee by mid to late afternoon on Tuesday, offering us some showers, some thunderstorms most likely as well. Coming up, we'll talk more about the forecast for the weekend, including the Titans matchup. And we're going to talk more about daylight saving time. I get this question a lot, especially when we fall back or spring forward. Why are we not on daylight saving time permanently? We will talk more about that and what it would mean for us here in Nashville coming up.
Thousands of voter registrations in Pennsylvania under investigation for potential fraud. I'm Matt Gelka in Washington, and I'll have the latest on the investigation coming up.
In politics tonight, former President Donald Trump's trying to cast doubt on election integrity in the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
This is all you see on social media. But as Fox 17 News' Matt Galka explains, Pennsylvania's governor says his state's election are secure and safe. Let us know what you think about this issue. Scan the QR code that's going to appear on your screen.
If you have a mail-in.
Former President Donald Trump told his supporters in Pennsylvania this week they already needed to be wary of election results.
They've already started cheating in Lancaster. They've cheated. We caught them with 2,600 votes. No, we caught them cold.
Trump was referring to an investigation in Lancaster County, where the district attorney's office says they found hundreds of fraudulent voter registration applications. Monroe, York, and Berks County officials also said they're investigating potentially fraudulent registrations, including issues with signatures and at least one deceased person listed on an application. But election officials, including Republicans, have emphasized none of the investigations center on actual votes.
This was detected, it was stopped, and the investigation is ongoing in some of these places. And the fact that people who are legally able to vote will be able to vote. Very, very proud of our staff.
At least two of the counties say an Arizona-based company called Field and Media Corps submitted some of the questionable forms. The group's CEO told the Associated Press they haven't been contacted by Pennsylvania officials, but they will cooperate if they are. The group has a history of working with Democratic campaigns in Arizona. The former president posted about the investigations this week, again mentioning ballots and calling for law enforcement to do its job. Democrats say it's an attempt to stir up fear and question election results.
I understand that Donald Trump wants to again, use the same playbook where he tries to, create chaos and stoke division and fear about our system. But again, we will have a free and fair, safe and secure election in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's Attorney General said that the fraudulent registration attempts had been thwarted thanks to the state's safeguards and promised to hold any potential fraudsters accountable after the investigation wraps up. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Galka.
Now, during that story, we had a QR code with a poll that asked you, do you think the U.S. is on the right track or the wrong track here? Here are the results. I can tell you that 7.4% of you said the right track. 92.6% of you watching said we're on the wrong track. Thank you so much for weighing in and watching.
A controversial North Nashville market cleared to reopen. Why people who live nearby are none too happy to hear it.
And teaming up for a great cause, the important work done by Best Buddies.
It's really scary that they have the opportunity to do it again.
In Operation Crime and Justice, Fox 17 News digging into citywide padlock orders as this North Nashville market shut down several months back for being a public nuisance gets the green light to reopen. Metro judge giving that permission, but only if the owners meet some very strict guidelines. Fox 17 News' Kylie Walker's off Buchanan Street in North Nashville, where crime has gone down since that market was shut.
In this hand, I'm holding the police call logs for this location since the Star Market shut down. And there's been just under 300 calls. And in this hand, I compared the 5 months prior while the Star Market was still open, and there were just under 600. People in North Nashville raised concerns about the Star Market for several years. Records show police repeatedly responded there in the months leading up to its padlock order under Tennessee's public nuisance law.
There's been a dramatic drop in crime. We don't hear the gunshots, we don't hear the tires squealing, we don't hear as much screaming.
This man who didn't want to be shown on camera is frustrated about its reopening despite close monitoring.
They were encouraging people to commit crimes on their property, and they were paying people for stolen merchandise. What kind of element do you think that's going to bring? It's going to bring more crime.
The DA's office says drug deals, shootings, and loitering prompted the original shutdown. At the same time, police arrested the store owners, Balas Bakhtor and Bassam Farag, on money laundering and theft charges at another location.
So a lot of times the business themselves are involved in illegal activity.
Former MMPD officer Ken Alexandro found it frustrating to return to the same business repeatedly.
It affects the citizens of Nashville as a whole when we're focused on the same business over and over, and we can't service the people that really need us.
I wanted to know more, so I digged into other cases around Nashville. For instance, the Z-Mart in South Nashville was raided and padlocked after thousands of calls to police. More recently, in 2023, MMPD padlocked the 3000 bar in Midtown after over 2 years of responding to calls of violence and disorder. There have also been several settlements for public nuisances at private residences over the years. For the Star Market here, the DA's office tells me they'll be closely monitored. The police, health department, codes, fire marshal all have the power to inspect it and make sure that they are complying with all rules and regulations. For now, reporting in North Nashville, Kylie Walker, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
New tonight, celebrating an important organization. Best Buddies connects kids who have intellectual and developmental disabilities and has a chapter right here in the Mid-State. Fox 17 News' Johnny Maffey is introducing us to the youngest fundraising team in the home stretch of their Champions Gala fundraiser.
Best Buddies creates friendships for kids with disabilities all across the country. Now, here in the Nashville area, 13 champions are teaming up with the Buddy to raise as much money as they can across the fall. You like hanging out with Maverick?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the youngest team in Middle Tennessee. 9-year-old Gino Graziano partnered up with his buddy Maverick Mingus to collect donations, auction items, and organize fundraisers for the local Best Buddies chapter.
Ever since Maverick told me about it, I really wanted to help kids out with disabilities. One of the fundraisers Gino came up with is Best Served Cold with a lemonade stand. A bunch of my friends helped me, even Maverick, and me and my grandma made a ton of cookies and lemonade, and then we sold it.
A true team effort. Maverick, I have a question. You excited for this weekend?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I tweeted out the link for Gino's Buddies fundraiser if you can help out, and you can also head to bestbuddies.org/Nashville for more. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Johnny Maffey, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Cooling down nicely already with temperatures in the mid-50s here in Nashville, and we'll be working our way into the 40s by tomorrow morning, upper 40s here. Cold front well to our east, and you see a nice cool pool of air that is kind of sinking into the Great Lakes region. So really a nice morning expected with those temperatures in the 40s, but we'll be warming up quite a bit as we head towards the afternoon hours. In fact, highs for tomorrow in the mid-70s here in Nashville, right around 70 near the Kentucky-Tennessee border. A little bit warmer heading south to Tullahoma, Lewisburg, mid-70s. We will see a mainly sunny to partly cloudy skies. We maintain dry conditions all the way through Saturday and looks like Sunday as well. Titans matchup against the Patriots. This will be at 12 o'clock kickoff at Nissan Stadium. Looking at a partly cloudy sky with temperatures in the mid-70s, upper 70s by 2, and by 4 o'clock we should be topping off near our afternoon high of 80 degrees. So really looking great both days this weekend, first full weekend of November. We'll talk more about permanent daylight saving time. We are falling back this weekend, more on why we are not on permanent daylight saving time just yet and what that would look like for us here in Nashville.
I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at controversial voter report cards.
And a new health crisis here in Music City. Why it has more to do, however, with crime than your health.
Hey, I'm Jennifer Waddell from Fox 17 News this morning. Daylight saving time ending this weekend, signaling the start of shorter daylight and colder weather. How you can help prevent seasonal depression from taking hold. Monday on Fox 17 News this morning.
Hey family, for a new season of Sherry, we're trying out new entrances.
Turning to the election now, some people are reporting getting election mailers showing them how their neighbors voted. Fox 17 News' Janae Bowens is taking a look at this controversy over these so-called voter report cards.
Have you seen your voter report card?
I don't need somebody looking over my shoulder.
Kevin Smith from Columbus, Ohio immediately ripped his up after getting it in the mail. It has his voting record and neighbors from the last few years. The most triggering part.
At the end, it said, "We are reviewing your records after this election to determine whether you joined your neighbors in voting."
Lynn Hyder in Oregon City, Oregon received one too.
This could be intimidating language to some, a first-time voter or an older voter.
The Center for Voter Information is behind the mailers. The Baltimore Sun reports the group's president and CEO, Tom Lopatch, a longtime Democratic political operative, says, quote, "The single most effective tool at increasing voter turnout is social pressure."
I understand that people might feel that's a little bit invasive and a bit kind of creepy even, but I think I'd hesitate at least to call that intimidation.
Franklin and Marshall College government professor Dr. Stephen Medvick says a voter's record is public information, and says these mailers are just trying to get people to vote.
When we use the term voter intimidation, what we mean by that is an attempt to dissuade or pressure somebody not to vote, or in some way to coerce them to vote for a particular candidate.
The mailers have gotten the attention of state officials across the country. Maryland's Attorney General issued a cease and desist letter saying in part, any action that intimidates prospective voters, especially on the eve of a consequential election, will not be tolerated.
What are they trying to do?
I think that's the whole wrong way to go about this. There's lots of ways you can encourage people to get out and vote without this sort of, hey, we're going to be reviewing your voting records and keeping an eye on you.
The Center for Voter Information shared their letter to Maryland's Attorney General. Now they say they are not violating Maryland or federal law. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
We turned the clocks back this weekend, but what if we didn't have to? A look at what permanent daylight saving time would be like in Nashville.
And a public health crisis, the crime now getting that distinction tonight.
Plus, a small gesture making a big difference here in the Mid-State, the importance of the Toys for Tots program. In Operation Crime and Justice, a Metro judge says there have been at least 4,200 domestic violence incidents in Nashville this year. Those are charges we know about. As Fox 17 News' Madeline Nolan shows us, these numbers are disturbing and they're prompting Metro leaders to push for change.
Given these pretty wild stats, the district attorney here in Nashville actually wants to consider domestic violence a health crisis. He says that around 50% of the violent crime here in Nashville is DV or DV related, and by far the largest unit in the district attorney's office. With this, he wants domestic violence professionals as well as advocates to go out with police officers on domestic violence calls. He applauds Metro officers for their response on these calls, but says that oftentimes accurate information slips through the cracks because of victim reluctancy.
I do think that if we had a domestic violence professional / advocate with the police on DV calls, we would see tremendous improvements in victim support, and that would also lead to more successful prosecutions.
Funk doesn't think the professionals should be under the umbrella of responsibility for the DA's office because of possible concerns of coercion. Instead, it could be an employee of the police department or the Office of Family Safety. And he's asking for at least one per precinct at this time. This is a story we will continue to follow, but you can visit our website at fox17.com to learn more. In Nashville, I'm Madeline Nolan, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Looking ahead to Monday on Fox 17 News at 9, a deck stacked against them. That's the claim from mid-state families battling the Department of Children's Services over custody of their children. They say the constant court hearings drain resources and cause time delays, even bankrupting some. So these parents are sharing their stories with Fox 17 News.
It's going to cost you $10,000. It's going to cost you $15,000. Who has $10,000 and $15,000 when you're trying to live, when you're trying to maintain a home and take care of your children?
Why DCS says this simply isn't true. That full report is on Monday on Fox 17 News at 9.
Looking ahead now to Sunday morning in Nashville in Focus, when topics for our bipartisan panel include the prospect of a new school voucher bill in the state legislature. State lawmakers put $144 million for vouchers in the current budget, but they couldn't agree on how to spend it, so that money is still sitting on the table. House and Senate leaders and the governor can call a special session to take up a single topic like vouchers.
There are a couple of options that I see that they can do, which is have a session right after the election. That's one option. The second option is wait until January and then do reorg and then have a special session within the session.
Now, other topics on Sunday include how a Donald Trump win on Tuesday in the presidential race could impact the makeup of Tennessee's congressional delegation, along with the potential of Republicans flipping a couple of state House seats here in Nashville. That's Sunday morning at 6:30 on Nashville in Focus.
Coming up this week on Full Measure.
Trump is not fit to be president again. Kamala Harris failed weak.
In the frenetic final days before the election, you're likely to be flooded by campaign ads. That takes money. We'll dig into the books and reveal the big names and industries behind each candidate and what they might be expecting in return for their cash support. We continue our swing state election coverage with a stop in Arizona, where the biggest argument is over illegal immigration and the biggest fight is for the support of independent voters. What voters on the ground are saying about what may be one of the strangest elections of our lifetime. And since the COVID pandemic, many U.S. companies have shifted from having employees that work in downtown offices to working from home. We'll look at how that's impacting commercial real estate and changing the texture of cities across America. All this week on Full Measure.
And Full Measure airs Sunday morning at 7:30 right here on Fox 17.
All right, we've mentioned it a few times. We are turning those clocks back 1 hour this weekend with daylight saving time coming to an end. We do it every fall and then we spring forward every spring. Here's a look at what we're looking at for tomorrow as far as sunrise goes, 7:11. Compare that to Sunday's sunrise, 6:12. And sunset tomorrow at 5:49. Sunset on Sunday, 4:48. So what would happen if we actually moved ahead to daylight saving time and then never fell back? That is possible. It is up for discussion, but there are still a few things that need to happen here. I get this question a lot. The government, Tennessee government's already passed the law to make daylight saving time permanent, but the federal government has to be on board as well. So the Senate, U.S. Senate, has passed the Sunshine Protection Act. That was back in 2022. That, though, needs to go to the House, and it has not been reviewed upon just yet. Sometimes they'll review and revise the bill. That then would need to go back to the Senate. Senate would need to confirm that, and then it would go to the president to sign into law. So there's still a few steps here that have to take place before this would become law in Tennessee. So Tennessee, we are on board for it, but the federal government still has to check some boxes. Permanent daylight saving here in Nashville, though. Currently, this is our switch. The earliest sunset is 4:32 in early December. The latest sunrise is 6:58, and that's in early January. If we were to move forward and then never fall back again, the earliest sunset would be 5:32 in the evening, and that would occur in early December every year. The latest sunrise that we would ever see is close to 8 o'clock in the morning. Let that sink in for a minute. Latest sunrise, if we were to move ahead daylight saving time and then never fall back, would occur 7:58 in the morning, and that would be early January. So again, the biggest changes, as you can see here, would come in the winter months. That's where we have the sunrise that's later, but the sunsets are also later. And then, of course, you talk about time changes, and that would mean a bunch of different things depending on where specific towns and states are, and if states adapt this permanent DST. For example, Minot, North Dakota, the earliest sunset would be 5:50. Their latest sunrise would be 9:35 in the morning. So really is interesting with all the time changes that we have around. Take our vote sticker and stick that on Tuesday. Temperatures are in the 80s as we head through the weekend. Next chance for rain does occur on Election Day and into early Wednesday.
Thank you, Katie. Still to come, something as simple as a gift can make a huge difference for mid-state families. How you can get involved this year with Toys for Tots.
And your inside look at Nashville's newest honky-tonk, what we can expect from Luke Combs.
Happening now, you can help to bring holiday joy to mid-state children whose family could use a hand up right now. The annual Marine Corps Toys for Tots program kicked off today. Now, this year, AT&T is among the corporate sponsors, and company leaders are urging you to drop off a new unwrapped toy at the AT&T store. You see it on the map there, 1900 West End Avenue, easy to find, 19th and West End. You've got until December 6th to take part.
An update now to our viewer poll. We asked you, should Congress get rid of daylight saving time? 83% of you said yup, and then 17% of you said no, leave it as it is. Well, this poll is live right now. You can cast your vote by scanning the QR code that you see on your screen, or head on over to our X page at Fox Nashville. We'll give you the updated results later on in our newscast at 10.
Just to add, one of the biggest high school football games in the mid-state tonight, a regional title on the line, the hard-hitting action between Page and Nolensville.
And a sneak peek at Nashville's latest honky-tonk, what you'll find inside Luke Combs' new hotspot. New tonight, country star Luke Combs will debut the latest honky-tonk in Nashville yet, and it is the city's largest. And Fox 17 News is getting a sneak peek. Category 10 opens its doors tomorrow. Now, it's got 5 different themed rooms with a rooftop debuting early next year. Tomorrow's grand opening celebration will have live music all day, performances, and even some food inspired by Luke Combs himself. Category 10 is replacing the old Wild Horse saloon spot on 2nd Avenue, so we wish him luck.
In sports, believe it or not, this is the last week of the regular season for high school football, and we are at one of the biggest matchups tonight. Roll the tape. The undefeated Page Patriots in Nolensville to take on the Knights for the Region 6 5A title. Here they come. Now, we're going to pick the action up here in the first quarter. Page up 7-0, ball in their own territory. That's freshman running back Isaac Odie. Off to the races around the corner, down the sideline. He has taken it to the house. Give him 6. All right, Page scores again, now up 14-0. Later in the first, take a look at this catch. One-handed toe tap there on the sideline. McLean Copeland getting it done, showing off the hands. But the very next play, Page runs it up the middle, breaks a few tackles, but keep your eye on number 13. Jonah Osborne strips the ball right out of the arms of the player there, giving the Knights a little bit of momentum. There he goes. Wouldn't be enough, though. Nolensville punts. Odie scores another, just saw there. Pats go on to win this game 42-0, taking home the Region 6 5A title.